This video offers a wide selection of research topics to assist you in identifying and choosing appropriate research ideas for early 2025. 15 research topics in Microeconomics. Behavioral economics, understanding how biases and heuristics influence consumer decisions in the marketplace. Market structures, comparative analysis of monopoly, oligopoly, and perfect competition in shaping market outcomes. Demand elasticity, estimating price elasticity for electric vehicles in Canada. Consumer behavior, analyzing the effects of inflation on household spending patterns. Public goods, economic implications of providing free access to healthcare or education. Externalities, the role of carbon taxes in addressing negative environmental externalities. Healthcare economics, the impact of price ceilings on pharmaceuticals in Canada. Labor markets, exploring the effects of minimum wage policies on employment and business growth. Game theory, strategic decision-making in competitive markets, such as the Canadian telecommunications industry. Supply chain economics, the role of microeconomic principles in mitigating supply chain disruptions. Energy economics, the impact of subsidies on renewable energy adoption. Digital markets, pricing strategies and competition in e-commerce platforms. Agricultural economics, the role of microeconomics in analyzing Canadian food pricing and subsidies. Housing markets, microeconomic analysis of rent controls and their impact on housing affordability. Information asymmetry, investigating the role of signaling in higher education or job markets. 15 macroeconomics research topics. Inflation dynamics, analyzing the long-term effects of inflation on economic growth in Canada. Unemployment trends, examining the relationship between technological advancements and structural unemployment. Fiscal policy, the role of government spending in mitigating economic recessions. Monetary policy, evaluating the effectiveness of the Bank of Canada's interest rate policies in controlling inflation. Economic growth, exploring the impact of green investments on sustainable economic development. Globalization, the effects of trade liberalization on the Canadian economy. Public debt, analyzing the implications of rising national debt on future economic stability. Exchange rates, investigating the impact of currency fluctuations on Canadian exports and imports. Climate change economics, macroeconomic implications of transitioning to a low-carbon economy. Population aging, the effects of an aging population on productivity and public spending in Canada. Income inequality, assessing the role of fiscal and monetary policies in reducing income disparities. Energy economics, the macroeconomic effects of shifting from fossil fuels to renewable energy sources. Health crises, economic recovery strategies following pandemics and large-scale public health emergencies. Financial crises, lessons from the 2008 global financial crisis for contemporary banking regulation. Digital transformation, the role of digital currencies and fintech in shaping the global financial system. 15 research topics in labor economics. Minimum wage policies, examining the impact of minimum wage increases on employment rates and income inequality. Gig economy, analyzing the labor market effects of gig platforms on job security and worker benefits. Wage disparities, investigating the causes and consequences of gender and racial wage gaps in Canada. Remote work, the long-term effects of remote work on productivity, wages, and work-life balance. Unionization, the role of labor unions in shaping wages and working conditions in Canada. Immigration and labor markets, the impact of immigration on local labor market outcomes, including wages and employment opportunities. Technological change, how automation and AI are reshaping labor demand and skill requirements. Labor market policies, evaluating the effectiveness of unemployment insurance programs in Canada. Job polarization, exploring the growth of low and high-wage jobs while the middle-wage sector shrinks. Education and earnings, the relationship between educational attainment and wage growth over time. Health and productivity, examining how workplace health initiatives impact employee productivity and absenteeism. Labor force participation, understanding the effects of childcare accessibility on female labor force participation. Aging workforce, the challenges and opportunities of an aging population for labor market dynamics. Temporary versus permanent jobs, analyzing the rise of temporary contracts and its implications for job stability. Workplace discrimination, investigating the economic cost of discrimination in hiring and promotions. 15 research topics in energy economics. Renewable energy adoption, analyzing the economic incentives driving the adoption of wind and solar energy in Canada. Carbon pricing, evaluating the effectiveness of carbon taxes in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Energy transition, the macroeconomic implications of shifting from fossil fuels to renewable energy sources. Electric vehicles, the impact of government subsidies on the demand for electric vehicles in Canada. Energy markets, assessing the role of deregulation in improving efficiency and competition in energy markets. Energy storage, the economics of investing in large-scale battery storage for renewable energy. Oil price volatility, investigating the impact of global oil price fluctuations on the Canadian economy. Energy efficiency, economic benefits of energy-efficient technologies in residential and commercial sectors. Hydropower, the role of hydropower in Canada's clean energy future and its economic viability. Nuclear energy, assessing the cost-effectiveness and public perception of nuclear power as a clean energy source. Energy poverty, exploring the socio-economic factors contributing to energy poverty in rural and urban areas. Global energy trade, the impact of international energy agreements on Canada's energy exports and imports. Energy security, analyzing the economic costs and benefits of achieving energy independence in Canada. Green hydrogen, the potential economic role of green hydrogen in decarbonizing heavy industries. Climate finance, examining the role of private and public investments in scaling renewable energy projects. 15 research topics on consumerism. Consumer behavior, analyzing the influence of social media on consumer purchasing decisions. Sustainable consumerism, the rise of eco-friendly products and its impact on consumer preferences. Inflation and consumer spending, investigating how rising prices affect purchasing behavior in Canada. Fast fashion, economic and environmental implications of consumer demand for fast fashion. Brand loyalty, exploring the factors that drive consumer loyalty to specific brands. Digital consumerism, the impact of e-commerce and digital platforms on traditional retail markets. Consumer credit, how debt affects spending habits and overall consumption patterns. Generational consumer trends, comparing consumption behaviors across baby boomers, Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z. Consumer protection, the role of government policies in safeguarding consumer rights in digital transactions. Luxury goods, investigating the drivers of demand for luxury goods during economic downturns. Advertising and consumerism, the psychological effects of advertising on consumer choices. Impulse buying, examining the role of retail layout and online algorithms in driving impulsive purchases. Greenwashing, the impact of deceptive environmental marketing on consumer trust. Consumerism and mental health, exploring the relationship between materialistic values and psychological well-being. Post-pandemic consumerism, how COVID-19 has reshaped consumer priorities and spending habits. 15 research topics on economic data analysis. Inflation trends, analyzing time series data to forecast inflation and its impact on household consumption. Economic growth, a cross-country comparison of GDP growth patterns using panel data analysis. Unemployment, investigating the relationship between unemployment rates and education levels using regression models. Housing markets, analyzing factors influencing housing affordability using regional economic data in Canada. Income inequality, measuring the evolution of income inequality using Gini coefficients and other metrics. Trade patterns, exploring the impact of trade agreements on export and import volumes through econometric modeling. Energy economics, analyzing the effects of renewable energy investments on electricity prices using time series data. Consumer behavior, identifying patterns in household spending during economic downturns using micro-level data. Health economics, assessing the economic burden of chronic diseases through healthcare expenditure data. Climate change and economy, evaluating the economic impact of extreme weather events using regional economic data. Labor economics, analyzing wage dynamics and labor force participation trends through longitudinal data. Public policy, examining the effectiveness of stimulus packages on GDP growth using counterfactual analysis. Digital economy, measuring the contribution of the digital sector to overall economic growth through input-output models. Agricultural economics, investigating crop yield variability and its economic implications using climatic and production data. Economic resilience, analyzing recovery patterns of local economies after major disruptions, e.g., pandemics or natural disasters. 15 research topics in environmental economics. Carbon pricing, analyzing the effectiveness of carbon taxes in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Renewable energy policies, the economic impact of subsidies for renewable energy development in Canada. Cost-benefit analysis, evaluating the economic trade-offs of transitioning to a low-carbon economy. Climate change and agriculture, assessing the economic impact of climate variability on crop yields. Natural resource management, exploring the economic and environmental trade-offs of deforestation. Environmental externalities, the role of environmental regulations in mitigating negative externalities from industrial production. Green consumerism, the economic incentives for businesses to adopt sustainable practices. Biodiversity economics, valuing the economic benefits of biodiversity preservation in Canada. Water economics, analyzing the economic impact of water scarcity and pricing policies. Wildfires and heatwaves, the economic costs of extreme weather events and adaptation measures. Circular economy, evaluating the economic feasibility of waste reduction and recycling policies. Sustainable urbanization, the economic and environmental benefits of green infrastructure in cities. Energy transition, the economic implications of phasing out coal and investing in clean energy. Environmental justice, examining the unequal economic burden of environmental degradation on low-income communities. Emission trading systems, analyzing the efficiency of cap and trade systems in controlling pollution. 12 research topics on international trade and economic development. Trade liberalization, the impact of free trade agreements on economic growth in developing countries. Global value chains, analyzing the role of international supply chains in fostering economic development. Export diversification, the relationship between export diversification and long-term economic growth. Foreign direct investment, FDI, examining the impact of FDI inflows on employment and income inequality in developing nations. Trade and technology transfer, how international trade facilitates the diffusion of technology in emerging economies. Tariff and non-tariff barriers, assessing their effects on trade volumes and economic performance in low-income countries. Natural resource exports, investigating the resource curse and its implications for economic development. Trade and gender equality, the effects of global trade on gender wage gaps and women's labor force participation. Regional trade agreements, analyzing their role in fostering economic cooperation and growth in developing regions. Trade shocks, the economic consequences of global trade disruptions, e.g., pandemics, conflicts, on developing economies. Sustainable trade, balancing trade growth with environmental protection in developing countries. Digital trade, the role of e-commerce in boosting economic development in underdeveloped markets. 10 research topics on sustainability. Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, measuring progress toward achieving SDGs in developing nations. Circular economy, the economic and environmental benefits of transitioning to a circular economy model. Corporate sustainability, exploring the impact of sustainable business practices on company performance and stakeholder trust. Green energy transition, the role of renewable energy in achieving sustainable economic growth. Sustainable agriculture, evaluating the economic and environmental trade-offs of organic farming practices. Urban sustainability, the impact of green infrastructure and smart cities on environmental and social well-being. Consumer behavior, how awareness of sustainability influences purchasing decisions and brand loyalty. Climate change adaptation, the economic costs and benefits of resilient strategies for communities and businesses. Sustainable supply chains, assessing the role of sustainability in reducing carbon footprints in global trade. Waste management, the economic and environmental implications of zero waste policies in urban areas.